races, just like we did with the warrior videos and we'll do with all the other ones. First off, we have the humans. They have increased spirit. This is good if you're a healer. It'll give you your mana regen. It's a nice bonus. Bonus to reputation gains. Like I said last time in the warrior video, it's always good. You have, especially at the beginning, so when the Mist of Pandaria comes out, people are going to want to be doing their rep grinds, wearing their tabards, doing their dungeons. You're going to do it 10% faster than the rest of the races if you pick a human. Expertise with maces and swords. Obviously, they can use maces. This guy's using a mace right here. They can also use swords. So it's a bonus if you are a protection or a retribution paladin. Holy really doesn't need it that much. You don't auto-attack too much. It's a very small benefit. Can break out of speed alternate effects. That is the Everyman for himself, which we spoke of last time with the warriors. Again, it's very useful if you're in if you're into PvP. Some situations in PvE it works in raids and dungeons, but battlegrounds, arenas, dueling, open world PvP, whatever you may have, that's a very good item to have. You can use a trinket in place of it. Also, we have the dwarves. They can also be paladins. They can take on a stone form. If you're it's very useful if you're protection, if you're tanking, just like it is if you're a warrior tank or a Death Knight tank or whatever other kind of tanks that they can be. It's useful. You can also find uses for it in Holy and Retribution as well. It's a little bit harder to find uses for it. Say if there was you had a bad bleed debuff on you to save your healer's mana or something like that. Critical chance with guns. Paladins don't use guns, just like warriors don't anymore, so don't need it. Frost damage, situational with the resistances. Archaeology, fragment, survey faster. It's a secondary profession, so it may or may not help. Expertise with maces. It might help you out there. Night elves cannot be paladins. Gnomes cannot be paladins. Draenites can be paladins. Jewel crafting skill is increased. It's a profession. May heal others or self over time. It's useful, situational at best. If you're holy, that's just another button for you to have to heal somebody with. Holy paladins themselves do not have any heal over time effects right now, except I think they can use Word of Glory, which is a spell you get at level 9 to heal over time with a glyph. But most paladins out there, they don't use that glyph. So it might help a little bit because you're the one class that doesn't really have healing class that doesn't have heal over time effects. Heal over time is, of course, literally or abbreviated as HOT, H-O-T, heal over time. It's, over X amount of time they will get healed for so much. It's typically a smaller heal, but it usually heals for more than, say, a normal heal would. Chance to hit with melee and spells increased. Protection, it's good. Chance to hit, it helps you with your threat. Retribution, you're trying to do as much damage as possible. Chance to hit is good. Resistance to shadow damage is a resistance. So whatever. Worgens cannot be paladins. I don't believe Pandarians, no, they cannot be paladins. That's all for the alliance. So if you want to be an alliance character and you want to be paladin, you've got a human, dwarf, or a draenei. Those are your choices. As for horde, orcs cannot be paladins. Undead cannot be paladins. So that would kind of be neat. A lot of people have asked for it, but it's not how that is. Taurens can be paladins as of Cataclysm. They're called Sunwalkers. I think, or maybe that's Blood Elves. No, Blood Elves are Blood Knights. Excuse me. Taurens may stomp any nearby opponents. That's useful for PvE, PvP. If you're a tank, if you're a protection paladin, that could be very useful. Maximum health increased. Again, if you're a tank, that's also another protection paladin. That's a good bonus. Herbalism skill and speed increase. It's a profession, so if that's your thing, cool. Resistance to nature damage is a resistance. Cool. Trolls cannot be paladins. Blood elves can be paladins. Their enchaining skills increase. It's a profession. Can restore resources such as mana or energy. If you're a healing paladin, even any spec of a paladin, some things have things that use more mana. Obviously, a holy paladin will use their mana is one of their main resources that they use. Protection paladins not so much. Retribution paladins not so much. But there is certain ways you can starve yourself for mana. This ability, Arcane Torrent, also silences. So if you're doing PvP or even if you're PvE, if you're a tank or a retribution paladin, and somebody's trying to hit you with a spell and it may hurt you, it may kill you, it may hurt somebody else, you can silence them, stop them from casting it, a harmful mob or a creature. Resistance to arcane damage is a resistance. Goblins cannot be paladins, so that's pretty much all you can be. So if you want to be a horde, your sources are kind of limited. You've got Taurens and Blood Elves. Back in the classic WoW, paladins were alliance-only races. So, as of Burning Crusade, they let Blood Elves be paladins, and then as of Cataclysm, they let Taurens be paladins. So, typically, it was an alliance, a good guy, quote-unquote kind of thing. But let's get into it. I'm going to use my 85 Paladin I copied over to show you some of the introductory abilities. Okay, first off, at level 1, you start out with Crusader Strike. Crusader Strike is an instant strike that causes some weapon damage, plus a little bit, and grants 1 charge of Holy Power. Holy Power for Paladins is their new resource that they added for them in Cataclysm. It goes up to 3. By default, with the default UI, there's this little Holy Power bar underneath with these little designs inscribed in them. So every time you use an ability, for example, Crusader Strike is the first one you get, so every time you attack a creature with Crusader Strike, you grant 1 charge of Holy Power. And the Holy Power is used for other things such as heals, a big attack, a shield for tanks, etc. It's all around useful. It's their secondary mechanic, along with mana. Mana is their primary resource mechanic. So Crusader Strike is level 1, and once you hit level 3, you get Seal of Command. Let me find it. Seal of Truth, Seal of Command. It's probably in one of these. Seal of Command is not what it used to be. It's basically a buff you put on yourself, unless they changed it in the most recent patch, which they may have. Seal of Command, what it was last patch, is a seal that you put on, and it every time you would attack, it would just deal additional holy damage to your targets. And when you use a different ability called Judgment, it would do differently. I assume now it probably is Seal of the Righteous, like it used to be, Seal of Righteousness. It fills you with Holy Light, causing melee attacks to deal 5% weapon damage to all targets within 8 yards. That's what that one is. There was a different one, though. Maybe possibly in the Retribution tree. But I'm not sure. Anyway, at level 5, you get Judgment. Judgment is one of the core Paladin abilities that has existed the entire length of the Paladin class. It is one of the more important abilities. It has changed several times over the years, but now it is just Judgment. That's all of it is. It's a magic attack that unleashes the energy of a seal that you are currently using to cause holy damage plus some other kind of effect. Based on what you get. Say if you were using Seal of Command, the one that you would get at level 3, or you did, every time you would use Judgment, it would deal additional holy damage to them. That's all it would do. It's a very low level type of seal. And then they would have other effects. I think they actually removed some of this, some of the utility for Judgment in your seals in this expansion. It used to be, say, if you would have a Seal of Insight on and you would use Judgment, you would gain mana back. They did whip some of this into the talents as you go down, as you'll learn. But every 15 levels, you'll get a talent, of course, and you choose one of 3. But this is a low-level guide intended for levels 1 through 10. Hammer of Justice is what you get at level 7. This is the Paladin stun. This is the stun. It is feared by people. It is wanted. It is people with other classes wish they had a stun like this. It's got a minute cooldown. It's got a very short range, but it stuns the target for 6 seconds. 6 seconds is an incredibly long time for anything to be stunned completely. Could be if you stun a player with it, of course, or an NPC, something like that. It's a very useful spell for all kinds, or Retribution Paladin, or you're just trying, even if you're holy and you're leveling, you're trying to kill creatures out there. You want to, every time you can, you want a Crusader Strike. Crusader Strike has a 4-second cooldown. It's lowered by haste sometimes, which we'll get into later, but you want to always keep using those abilities to gain holy power. Every time it's up, once you see the cooldown end, you always want to trigger it again the second it comes back up. At level 10 for protection, I believe you used to gain Shield of the Righteousness, which was a shield slam. I'm not sure what you gain now because I don't have a Paladin level 10 since the beta was having issues. I couldn't. Every time I'd start trying to level, I would have a WoW error and crash. Retribution used to be you get Templar's Verdict, which is a damage holy power ability. So instead of costing mana, it's going to cost holy power, but it would do lots of damage to them. So you Crusader Strike, do other things in the way. Crusader Strike, Crusader Strike, Crusader Strike every time it's up, and then eventually you use Templar's Verdict, deal lots of damage. It's a very powerful ability. At level 12, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but at level 12 you gain Righteous Fury. That is your ability to tank. That is your defensive stance of sorts for Paladins. It increases your threat generation. So anything that you attack with any sort of ability will be favored to attack you. If you're tanking, you always want to have this on. If you're protection, if you were protection and then you did something else and you switched to holy, make sure to check that it's off. It's a toggled ability. A lot of times when a paladin as a tank gets into a low-level group, he'll run in there and start tanking, And for some reason, nothing will want to stick to him. He'll have no aggro or no threat on any of these mobs. And once everybody dies, the first question they'll ask is, right, Tashiri, did you have it on? A lot of times they didn't. That's usually the error. So don't let little errors like that, ruin your chances at having a good group because you made a silly mistake. A little bit about Paladins in game. Like I said earlier, they can do all three very well. Holy Paladins are very strong. They're very strong healers. They've always been, their niche has been very strong single target heals. Obviously, every raid group has a tank. Therefore, every raid group wants a Holy Paladin. They're very sought after. Very strong single target heals. Recently, there's been other abilities that's been added to increase the healing potential of group heals. Holy Radiances, Light Up Dawns, things like that have just allowed Paladins to heal more people while still being able to heal tanks. But they're very strong single target healers. So if you have a tank friend, or you see a group that needs a Holy Paladin, that's your role, is typically the tank healer or the strong single target healer. You have very powerful cooldowns abilities that will increase your healing done. So you want to make sure to use those. Protection Paladins, on the other hand, they're the tanks of the group. Protection Paladins, they use a block just like warriors. They use a shield. Obviously, as you can see, it's on my back. They use a shield to tank with. And so therefore they have a block mechanic. It's a little bit, I'll hit the rest of these classes that are coming up. And so if you're interested in playing another class, once I end up with those videos, I'll be doing a little bit more advanced videos on all the classes. So keep checking back. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch.tv. If you subscribe to both of those, your name is automatically entered into a drawing to win a free Diablo 3. The cutoff date for this is May 7th. So as of right now, it's the 29th of April. So check back and win yourself a free Diablo 3. Thanks for watching. See you next time.